Hey guys, welcome back to the Laid-Back Homestead. I'm Crystal, and today we are back in the kitchen. I am doing things a little bit different today. I am going to be preparing dinner, which is going to be a basil pesto chicken with spaghetti and our homemade marinara on the side. But I also have a basket of falls out mismatched ingredients here. This is pretty common for this time of year in the garden. So I'm going to bring you over, show you what we have in here, and I'm going to have to figure out how I want to preserve this. So let's see what we got in here. In here, I have a mixture of a couple cucumbers, some sweet peppers, as well as some spicy peppers, a few other little tomatoes. These are our Mad Hatters. So I'm gonna come up with a plan of what we're gonna do to preserve this harvest. A little eggplant. So let me get everything cleaned and then we'll figure out what we're gonna do first. So I have everything laid out here. I have our 2 cucumbers clean. I am gonna do a quick refrigerator pickle on these. So that's why I just grabbed an onion from my pantry to add on. I have my bowl. This is all of our hot peppers. And I'm going to be turning these into basically a hot pepper paste, like a fried hot pepper paste or a pepper crisp. And I'm going to be freezing it once it's fried off. And then down here, my sweet peppers and my tomatoes, I'm going to add on an onion to that. And I'm going to basically make up like a homemade Rotel or a homemade, just kind of a tomato, pepper, and onion mix that I can add into my freezer. And my eggplant, I think I'm just gonna saute that up today and have that for lunch. And I just wanted to make a quick note here, just for my own record keeping in the future. It is mid-July, end of July, and the only sweet peppers that I have producing in my yard right now are coming out of my hydroponic system. They seem to do better during our high heat hydroponically. All of the ones in my garden beds and in my bags and stuff, even though they're on drip and getting watered regularly, they are just not producing as well as the hydroponic peppers. Now I did go ahead and taste my cucumber raw just to make sure that it wasn't bitter. I know that some varieties, especially in this type of heat, can go bitter on you. I believe this variety is the Suyo Long, which I have not had an issue with going bitter. I'm going to save the rest of this for my lunch. One of the ways I like to eat cucumbers is just fresh eating with some soy sauce. So let me go ahead and get this onion going. If you own a mandolin and want more consistent pickle cuts, by all means, go ahead and use it. I use it sometimes. I'm just not in the mood today. I'm going to be using my chopper and already my food processor. So one less thing, and I'm not too worried about the size of the pickles. So now that we have our cucumbers and onions all sliced up in the bowl, we're going to come into our pot with all of the pickling ingredients. I'm just using a small saucepan, and it's 1.5 cups of sugar, 1.5 cups of apple cider vinegar. I've seen other recipes that use white vinegar. I'm sure it doesn't matter. Now we're going to add 1/2 teaspoon of celery seed. You would do 1/2 teaspoon of the mustard seed. I'm just going to do a little bit less than 1/2 of what I have, which is the ground mustard. 1/2 teaspoon of turmeric. Should make for an interesting colored pickle. And lastly, 1/2 teaspoon of the ground cloves. Now we're just going to turn on our heat, and you really only heat this through until the sugar is dissolved. And once it's dissolved, you pour it over your pickle and onion mixture. let it cool. You need to let it cool before you put it in your fridge. But once it's cool, you put it in your fridge, and it recommends not serving them until you've let them marinate in the fridge for at least 24 hours. All right, y'all, my microphone went out, so hopefully y'all can hear me for this next part while it's charging. I just have my cucumbers and onions off to the side. We have our pickling mixture going. Now I'm gonna get started on the Rotel. Because I want kind of a more even chop for this, I am gonna use my chopper, plus it'll go by much faster. So I'm gonna go ahead and get all of our sweet peppers chopped up, and I'm also gonna be adding in an onion to that, as well as our tomatoes. So for our second recipe, our homemade Rotel, AKA chopped peppers, chopped tomatoes, and chopped onion, that'll be freezer ready. I have here my peppers from the yard, my last of the tomatoes for this season, as well as an onion, and then my lunch eggplant and cucumber hanging out back there. And I just wanted to make a quick note here, just for my own record keeping in the future. It is mid-July, end of July, and the only sweet peppers that I have producing in my yard right now are coming out of my hydroponic system. They seem to do better during our high heat hydroponically. All of the ones in my garden beds and in my bags and stuff, even though they're on drip and getting watered regularly, they are just not producing as well as the hydroponic peppers. Now our pickle brine is finished. It simmered away until all of the sugar dissolved. I'm gonna come pour that on top of our pickles, and we'll just let them rest. Just gonna give them a quick little stir. That is a lot of brine, but I didn't measure out my cucumbers either, so let them sit in this and absorb all that goodness. So you can see I've got our pickles back there, and I am now finished all the peppers and the onions in here. I'm moving on to the tomatoes, and then this will be done as well. I did go ahead and get a bowl just so that I can mix it all together to have more of an even distribution of, tomatoes, peppers, and onions. And if you're curious what varieties I'm using, I believe these ones were all San Marzanos, and then I have, I believe, a hillbilly. Pretty sure that was a hillbilly. I could be wrong on that, but and this one I have absolutely no idea. It's end of season. I'm just glad I have any tomatoes right now. So I have here my finished bowl of homemade, I keep saying Rotel, but it's really just peppers and onions and tomatoes. Duh. Okay. So what I'm gonna do now, my bowl is a little small, but that's the story of my life. I'm actually just gonna add in some Italian seasoning to this just to help it be a little flavorful for when I go to cook with it. And I'm gonna add in some garlic powder. This recipe I am making up, so it's pretty simple. It's just a nice way to get your produce ready to go, ready to cook with. Now, obviously you could cook with this right away if you had a recipe in mind or a dish in mind, but because I am cooking something totally different tonight, I am going to be portioning this out. I do have freezer bags, vacuum freezer bags, vacuum seal bags, but I don't think I'm going to use that. I think I'm just going to use regular old little Ziploc baggies, because stuff like this I will go through and use up pretty quickly. So I just have some sandwich size Ziploc baggies, and I'll just put in the amount that I feel would be appropriate. And with anything, like, again, I can't can in this house. I mean, I can in the house, but I don't have space to store canned goods. So my main preservation method is indeed the freezer. And with anything that goes in the freezer, your enemy is air. So the only thing I caution you if you're going to do this is to always squeeze out as much air. See, I sealed it almost up to the end here. Leave a little hole here, squeeze out all of your air, and then seal it off. And this way, also smushing it down, you can freeze these in layers and stacks, and it's just a lot easier to store them that way. And of course, label your bag with whatever you want to call it and your year, just so it doesn't get lost in the back of the freezer. For the last preservation recipe I'm doing today, for the spicy chili crisp or spicy chili paste, I'm just going to food processor up my hot chilies, and I will need some vegetable oil, and I will go ahead and fry that up, get it to the consistency I like, and then I am going to be preserving it in my ice cube tray in small portions in the freezer. Now, if you were going to be chopping these up by hand, not using a food processor, I strongly caution you to wear gloves when doing that, because I'm only going to be slicing off the tips and throwing them directly in the food processor. That's why I'm not, but I have definitely made mistakes in the past and regretted several hours afterwards. So again, if you're not using a food processor, please, my cautionary tale, use gloves. So as far as the pepper varieties I'm using right now, I am using the big ties that I have. I actually saved one to saute up with my eggplant for lunch later. The Mad Hatters, oops, it was in the composter. The Mad Hatters I thought were spicy, but I just tasted it and it's not. I'm not getting heat. So I will have to correct my notes for the future. So this actually won't be that spicy. I mean, I don't know exactly how spicy the ties are. Yeah, okay, the ties are carrying some heat for sure. I also have going in some spicy MG Leopolds. These definitely pack a punch too. Now, a fun fact I have learned recently is that with spicy peppers, if you soak them in a bowl of water for like an hour, it supposedly takes some of the heat out. If anyone knows if that's true, I'd love to know if you've tried that. I'm thinking about giving it a go, maybe more so with like my jalapenos or serranos that I'll get in later on in the season. All right, I have all of my peppers in my food processor. We're just gonna blitz this and then get it frying off in the pan. Alrighty, so I've got my peppers all mashed up. So into a pan, I am going to add a couple tablespoons of vegetable oil. And we're gonna get our peppers in here. I think I'm also gonna add in some garlic to this. And I don't know if you can hear it, but I'm gonna let that go ahead and fry up until it gets to just the consistency I'm looking for. Now, I did decide to go ahead and add a little bit of garlic to this. This is one of those things where I feel like you can kind of add in whatever you really want to. And I just like to kind of give it a stir here and there. I would recommend keeping an eye on it. I haven't had it burn on me in the past, but I guess that would be my fear, that if I walked away, maybe it would burn on me. So just keep an eye on kind of what's going on. And you just really are cooking this till you get it to a consistency that you want. As far as I'm concerned, I'm almost there. Our chili paste is done. And now what I'm gonna do, because it's almost time to prep for dinner, I'm gonna go ahead and get my lunch done. First thing I'm gonna do is chop up my eggplant. This recipe calls for you to cut it up into chunky pieces. Well, I almost forgot to show y'all the ingredients that we actually need for this recipe. I have one eggplant. I'm gonna go ahead and add in a Thai pepper just for some heat. Calls for some garlic. It calls for olive oil and butter, but I'm just gonna use olive oil for simplicity's sake, and some soy sauce. So I'm going to start by adding 2 tablespoons of olive oil to a small pan. To the olive oil, I'm going to add in my garlic. And once you hear that start to kind of sizzle, that's when we're going to go in with our eggplant. Okay, I hear our olive oil and garlic going. I'm going to go in with the eggplant and my chili and the 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. I'm gonna give that a stir. So now that I have it kind of all mixed around, you're gonna cover it with a lid and cook it for about 7 minutes until the eggplant is tender. Again, I'd keep an eye on it. It does say to add water to it if necessary, I guess if it looks like your soy sauce is cooked out. So while my eggplant for lunch is sauteing, I'm gonna go ahead and transfer over my pickles into a storage container so that I can get them ready for the fridge. They've cooled off enough. And now you just need to label it. So it has been 7 minutes. My eggplant has been in here steaming. I'm gonna go ahead and check to make sure it's tender. It feels fork tender. So this ended up being today's lunch. The sauteed eggplant, the garden fresh cucumber with, yes, a little bit of extra soy sauce because I'm quite obsessed with it. And I always kind of, well, I say always, I typically do meal prep boiled eggs for the week. This was just a quick lunch that I could eat while I'm working on several different things. So because I'm going to be eating lunch kind of off camera in between all these different projects that I have going on, I wanted to go ahead and just taste the eggplant. They're really good. I know some people get tripped up with eggplant. They don't know what to do with it. That was really good, really fast, really easy to make. I'm going to link it down below, the recipe. Obviously, I will link any of the recipes I use for inspiration today down below. A lot of these I'm kind of ad-libbing. Most of them I'm not following exactly. But that's because today was more about preserving my harvest rather than testing new recipes. So I will link whatever I have found or used as inspiration, of course. The eggplant, though, I followed pretty closely, and it is really good. So you can't go wrong with that. And that one Thai pepper I added in there, it added very, very, very baseline heat. Maybe if I would have chopped it up more, I would have added a little bit more. But it's just warm enough. It's so good. So if you have eggplant growing and you don't know what to do with it, give this recipe a try. So the last recipe I'm putting together for tonight could not be any easier, especially since most of the steps we've done prior to this. But I'm making a grilled pesto chicken to go along with spaghetti and marinara. I may throw in meatballs for my kids. We'll see how that plays out. But I am going to go ahead and prep the chicken thighs. The recipe that I'm following is including a pesto recipe in case you don't have any. But I'm throwing this dinner together because we already have made our homemade pesto and we already have made our homemade spaghetti sauce. So this is one of those reasons why I really like to keep my freezer stocked, because when I need a fast meal, when I've been busy in the kitchen all day, this is going to come together very quickly. First thing I'm going to do, I'm using chicken thighs. This recipe called for chicken breasts, pounded thin. My family's preference in meat is chicken thighs. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually just take these out and trim them. Got my chicken trimmed up. I'm going to season this with a little bit of onion powder. You can do both sides if you want to, but the pesto is pretty seasoned already and it's going to marinate in that for a while. So I don't need to go crazy with the seasonings. And I am going to do a little bit more salt. And I have here my Ziploc bag that I'm going to use to marinate in my stand. I'm just going to get my chicken in there. Couldn't be easier. I've got my chicken in a bag, and thanks to our already done up pesto here, I'm going to put all of this jar in here because I'm making more chicken than what it originally called for. I have a little bit over here that I will use finishing after we grill it. Full disclosure, I'm not going to grill the chicken. My husband will grill the chicken. Now, I've got it all incorporated together, and I'm going to let that marinate for at least 30 minutes. In my case, it's going to marinate closer to 4 hours, which is fine. If your pesto is coming out of the fridge like mine was, it's a little firm, which can make smushing in the bag a little bit challenging. So what I would recommend you to do is to pop it out into a microwave safe bowl and just pop it in your microwave just long enough to loosen up your oil. Or if you don't mind just waiting for your hands to heat it up a little bit, eventually it will all come together. All right, so I'm about to get the rest of dinner going, but our chili crisp is done. So I'm gonna spoon that over here first so that I can get that into the freezer and ready for long-term storage. And all I do is just take a tablespoon, roughly amount of it, and plop it in here. And then I will flash freeze it like this. And once I flash freeze it, I will pop them all out and put them in a Ziploc bag that's labeled spicy chili crisp, chili paste, whatever you want to call this. And here we have it. I went ahead and flash froze my tomato, pepper, and onion blend. I flash froze my hot pepper paste, and I had our pickles in the refrigerator. So that is today's work. And now I have the spaghetti going in the marinara sauce, and the chicken is about to hit the grill, and soon it'll be dinner time. All right, guys, well, I'm outside right now. My dog needed to come out, so I figured I would just film my outro. I hope these recipes inspired you to preserve your harvest. Not all of us can, so I'm always looking for ways to put things up in the freezer or for fresh eating. So if you liked any of these recipes, please give this video a thumbs up. And if you're into cooking content, homesteading content, or gardening content, I encourage you to subscribe. Until next time, stay blessed.